So, Trent, what have you been eating today?
Interesting story. Today I was at a flea market and I exited the aforementioned I don't know, there was like a big like banquet hall with a bunch of people and they were selling their assorted trash. And then I walked out to the parking lot and I was going to my car. And in between me and my car is like a football field length. And in front of me, the only obstacle is these two ladies, and as soon as I come into view, they're hollering at me, and they're like, "Come on over here!" And so I went over, mostly because I had to, in order to get to my car, because it would have been pretty obvious if I tried to take like an alternate route. So I put my head down and walked over, and they were selling a product. And usually um, at this flea market, there's a lot of like outdoor vendors, but today it was raining. And so these two ladies are just like there in the pouring rain under their little tent, very persistent. That's good business. And so I walk over because they really left me no choice. And I was like, "All right, you have 15 seconds. Like, give me your pitch. Like, sell me on whatever this product is." And it was homemade crumb cake. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And they named off all the flavors, and they seemed pretty enticing. So one crumb cake, Parth, I'll the one crumb cake was about like the size of my face, which isn't very large. If you know anything about my face, um, but it was $13. And then two were 25, and I was like, no offense, but like this crumb cake is already like really expensive. So, and they were like, we're gonna warn you now, you're gonna regret it if you only buy one. And I was like, I'll have to take that risk because I'm not the kind of guy just ready to part with $25. So I bought one. It was like a gourmet coconut crumb cake, and I brought it home and I ate it. Well, I ate a sliver, and Parth, look at my face. It was like the best thing I've eaten in like several years. And the tragic part is that they were only there today, and their bakery is based out of like upstate New York. So if I like, they hooked me, and now it's inaccessible, and I am going to have to drive like several hours for more. And they were right. I should have bought several.
So, is crumb cake?
Yes, the remains of it are upstairs as we speak, and it's going to be taking up the majority of my brain power throughout this podcast. It has cast some wicked spell on me, and it's all I think about.
Um,
Have you been eating? Or well, do you have any questions before we move on? Or
no, I mean you.
I know
I could see your face. You were a happy
it was
boy.
an elaborate description. Parth, have you had any eye-opening bakery experiences today, or is that just me?
Not any bakery experiences. I had Thai food today, for whatever that's worth.
Oh,
Um, it was some pad Thai, chicken pad Thai.
wait,
It was good.
Is Thai food from Thailand? Does that check out? Does that hold any
That
water?
the land of Thai, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Geography quiz. Where is Thailand?
Um,
Just give me
you
like a
know,
region, or tell me like the
it's like
surrounding
Asian.
country.
It's Asian.
I
So
agree.
I
But
would
more
say
specifically,
somewhere east of. I mean, it could be west of us if you keep going west.
well, if you go east or west of us in either direction for long enough, yeah, I'm sure you'll reach
Yeah, that's
Thailand.
well, yeah.
But
I mean, I'm
that's
not
that's rather
incorrect.
imprecise.
I'm just saying. I
I
had
think it's
some
an
chick.
island nation. Is that wrong?
I will tell you that right now because I know this and I'm not searching it up. And I
Wait,
wasn't. It's located at the center of the Indo-Chinese Peninsula.
so it's by China. Is that what that means?
It's near China, yeah.
Yeah, because I only like vaguely know the whereabouts of China.
Because I know
Um,
lots of Most the people, a lot of people in Thailand migrated from southwestern China.
The Eastern Hemisphere is all a blur to me, if we're being honest.
Does that include Europe or just people that don't look like you?
Well, I have to pay respects to my great ancestors of Eastern Europe. But beyond that, I just haven't taken the. I've been to Europe as middle class white people do in their free time, but I'm yet to visit any of the other continents. You?
I've been to Europe. I've been to
Which countries?
I'm gonna sound like an asshole here, but
yep, you already do.
Okay. Well, I've been to Italy, Spain, Greece.
Was this all in one trip?
No, I went to Rome when I was like 6,
and
then I went to Spain in 2nd grade. I went to France in 4th grade. I went to Greece in going the summer into my 11th grade. I went to
So you're
Italy
what caused the economic crash in Greece? Is you went there and you bought so much like tourist knickknacks, and then you left, and then there was a huge
there was nothing there.
Fallout. Yeah.
I won't say I
or
was
there
the
or
reason.
you bought up the supply, and there was no more. Well, you just don't want to claim responsibility.
Well, I'm.
You don't want the Greek government
I'm not
to
going
come
to
after you.
comment
They're
on
dangerous people.
The economic crashes I may or may not have caused. How about let's just cut to the show. Cue the intro.
Welcome back to Craft Services, where we talk about movies. Each week we discuss a different film and hopefully have an interview with the crew member of that film to talk with us about their experience. This week, we're going to talk about John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum. And with us, we have Keanu Reeves' stand-in and photo double, Vince Hickman.
The synopsis IMDb gave me is John Wick is on the run after killing a member of the International Assassin's Guild, and with a $14 million price tag on his head, he is the target of hitmen and women everywhere. I'd say that's accurate.
Yeah, I mean, that's more or less what happens. I find it weird. Like, you would think that, like, hitmen should encompass, like, assassins of all genders. It's weird that they had to specify, like, hitmen and women. Like, I know that it goes back to the conversation of, like, actor and actress, right? But I know some people are advocating for just, like, all people who serve tables are just waiters, and so on and so forth, because it's kind of like a needless distinction.
Let's get some gender equality in the assassin business.
Yeah, Parth, way to advocate.
Well, here to talk about John Wick 3, we're going to give you guys our interview with Vince Hickman. He was a super awesome guy, really forthcoming with a lot of stuff. He's worked with a lot of interesting people.
Steven Spielberg, Christopher Nolan, Keanu Reeves, Tom Hanks. Guys, stay tuned. It's a quality interview with Vince Hickman, so let's cue it. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. We're here with Vince Hickman. He's an incredibly talented artist who's worked in several different departments in films. He's worked with some incredibly prolific artists such as Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, Steven Soderbergh, and he's worked as Keanu Reeves' stand-in for our film today, John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum. I'm incredibly excited to be talking with him, so welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Pleasure to be here.
Well, thanks for coming on. So our first question was, we did some research, and it says that you worked at the Pentagon as a naval intelligence specialist, then on Wall Street, and then created a successful internet company. Can you go through the process that got you to where you are today in the film industry?
Sure. It certainly wasn't a planned one. I kind of found my way into Hollywood. Out of high school, I joined the Navy and found myself as a naval intelligence specialist that eventually was stationed at the Pentagon. And after meeting my wife and getting married, I ended my naval service, moved to New York City, and had a typical New York experience. I first worked on Wall Street for a few years using some of my military background to good use. And as many people in New York do, I found my way into the arts. I ended up working at a fine arts gallery, running that for a number of years, discovered photography, fell in love with video, started experimenting with short digital films, 10, 15 years ago. And as sometimes happens in New York, so a casting agent had seen a digital short that I had done and asked if I was available to do some work on a television show. I believe the short that I was working on was a surf video that I made. The role was as a surf instructor on the USA Network's television show Royal Pains. It wasn't that significant of a role, but I had a blast. It was my first time on set, and every couple of weeks someone would call me back based on the last job that I had, and one gig led to another, and I've been a member of SAG since 2011. So I certainly found a little spot for myself in Hollywood.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's not a path most people generally go down.
Not at all.
Which is very interesting. And we started this podcast because there's all these different jobs when you work on a movie that I feel people don't really know about. Sure. And so one of them that I find interesting is the job of a stand-in, which is what you are credited as in the John Wick trilogy for Keanu Reeves.
Correct.
So what we were wondering was, what would you say would be a job description of a stand-in, and any things you would want the public to know that they may not know about that job? Sure.
Again, having been a huge television and movie buff all my life, before I worked in the business, I had no idea that a stand-in, or an old-fashioned term, a body double, even existed. In the traditional sense, the lead actor or even a supporting actor sometimes isn't available to the director or the cinematographer for all the requirements on set. I mean, if you use John Wick as an example, you'll see the scene of John Wick or Keanu Reeves delivering the line, but all the action sequences, all of him getting into a car, him going down a hallway, there's any number of scenes where it's very, very complicated to get the preparations done for the production. Camera, lighting, especially with an action scene, what lens is the cinematographer going to use? There's all these reasons why they need the actor there in order to kind of rough it in. And, especially on these big pictures, Keanu Reeves' his time is much better spent than hanging around making sure that the lighting's just perfect, or, what lens are they going to use? So that's what a stand-in is used for. Stand-ins used, usually we get there, we're some of the first people that arrive on set, maybe the director of cinematography, a lighting guy, and the stand-in, and they just kind of walk through what's in the script for the day. John Wick enters the bar, looks around, sees the bad guy, approaches, grabs the pencil, whatever the scene is. Just kind of walk through it. As his stand-in, I'd get in the doorway. The cinematographer would say, "All right, let's go in action." I'd come in, just get an idea, make some notes to his assistant. Maybe we'll get this lens. We'll see what's going on. Put a light source out of the window. Just kind of just roughly block in the scene. And, that goes on with more complexity and more working members of the crew as we get closer to shoot time, so that hopefully the goal is once Keanu walks on set, fully clothed, ready for a rehearsal, I've kind of got it all worked out for him. It's not going to take him an hour to do something. He walks in, you come in here, you stop there, grab the gun, whatever it is. He does his thing. And if I've done my job, I've saved them a lot of time. And, it's as fun as it sounds.
So are you only do you ever see yourself in the final cut of the movie? Are you filmed with shots that Keanu's face isn't in? Will it be your shoulder and then over the shoulder, or you walk?
It could be. And that I alluded to that earlier. In addition to the role of a stand-in, there's also a position called photo double, or a traditional body double, if you will. I played both roles. The stand-in doesn't need really to look exactly like Keanu Reeves. It doesn't even really need to look close. So I guess the most important thing for a stand-in is that they're approximately the same height. And, again, it's for, looking for a male form coming through a window or coming through a doorway or coming across the room. It doesn't need to be that specific. A photo double, obviously, someone that normally they have the exact same body measurements, so they fit exactly in their clothes. And, a lot of times what they'll do is Keanu will come in, or I'll do as a stand-in, I'll rough the scene out with the director and the cinematographer. Keanu comes in, he does his scene, delivers his line, and as soon as he's done exactly what he has to do, he goes ahead. They wrap him to go on to the next set, or maybe perhaps he wraps for the night. I come in, grab maybe the jacket off of his back, put it on. Hopefully my hair looks just like his, or they wig me, and then they put the camera behind me, and I'll do those scenes that you don't really have to see his face. Are there scenes? Sure. I've been a photo double for a number of projects, not just with John Wick, but with other, where literally the lead actor comes up and says, okay, let's get out of here and go rescue go rescue the girl. And as soon as they turn away and they cut to the wide shot, the shadowy hero that's running off into the distance isn't Keanu Reeves. That would be me. But then as soon as they cut back, it's him. In some of the more complicated fight sequences or driving sequences, in addition to a stand-in and a body double, there's a fight double, there's a driving double, there's a horse double. In any one sequence, there could be 5 different males depicting John Wick. That's just cut. It gets pretty complex. So hopefully we're all about the same size, same body weight, and rarely do they have to, deep fake someone's face or anything like that. But they have at times. Keanu's so accomplished and so physically fit. Most of the time he would do everything, and they would film him do everything. Then they would wrap him and let him, do something else. And maybe they would cover at a different angle with one of us that they didn't necessarily need the face, or they could, just getting up off the floor and hobbling out the door or something like that injured. They wouldn't need him for that. They would use a body double or a stunt double, and just freeze him up. It's a complicated, sometimes there's 2 or 3 units shooting at the same time, and he's leaving one and going to be whisked to the next one. So that it's just a very coordinated machine of, trying to get 100 shots in as quickly as they can with, using his time as wisely as they can. It's fascinating to be a part of. And it's something that having not worked on those sets before, I had no idea how complicated and, how many doubles that they would use for any major role, especially the action related ones.
One of the things we were wondering was how you personally got involved with the John Wick series, and what that story was like.
A lot of luck, especially in the world of stand-in, not so much with body doubles, but with stand-ins. It's not uncommon to have the producer's nephew, or someone's friend or relative gets those great gigs. You get to hang around with, the lead for a couple weeks. I had previously worked with the second assistant director on the John Wick series, a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Marks. I had worked with him a number of times over the years in a number of different projects. And I kind of, every time he has a big job in New York, I try to get on it. And hopefully, and it's, if he's looking for someone to fulfill a role like this, I've luckily over a number of years been made a short list. I worked with him on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was really the first movie that I worked with him on, and got
the recent one,
the reboot, the reboot
nice.
That was in, and I was one of the Foot Clan ninjas. So they sent me to ninja school at Steiner Studios in Brooklyn, and because I had some military background, I'm not sorry to get off on a sidetrack.
No, please.
They asked if anyone of the prospective Foot Clan ninjas had any military experience. So of course I raised my hand. There were only a few of us, and they said, "Does anyone know how to march troops?" So I kept my hand raised, having still remembered boot camp. So the military advisor said, "All right, son, go ahead and teach these guys to line up and see what you can do." So didn't take. These were all pretty smart guys. Took them up a couple of minutes to teach them how to line up in ranks and dress, face right, and marched them all around the parking lot at Steiner and to a company halt right in front of the director. And by that point, I think I made my name with these guys. And so I got to bounce around with a number of projects that he had worked on. And again, him working with John Wick, I worked as a photo double in the stand on the first one. And the second one, I didn't work as much as some. Again, they had so many of us at times. There was one gentleman by the name of Matt Kerr. I've worked with him for a number of years on a number of projects. He worked closely with Keanu in the first and the second one. I was kind of his backup. Going into the third movie, I kind of took over as the principal. I think Mac had some other opportunities he was taking advantage of. So luckily, I got to work every day as Keanu's main stand-in and photo double, and got to have this great experience.
So we were wondering, how long were you on set for John Wick Chapter 3, and was that amount of time like standard for the other features you've been a part of?
No, it's the longest, most wonderfully long gig I've ever had, because there were so many scenes with just Keanu in it. I worked almost every single day. Let's see, 2018, it was early summer, May, June, July, dipping into August.
Oh, geez, that's a long schedule.
Yeah, it was amazing. And that, again, that wasn't all me. I think we did all the New York stuff, and towards the end, they left to go to Morocco, which I had nothing to do with, and that would have been a nice trip, but some other lucky fella got to stand in for him over there. But the New York shoot was most of it. It was based out of Gold Coast Studios in Bethpage, New York. That's where all the sets were. Shot all over New York City. The days were incredibly long. 14, 16 hours a day, 5-6 days straight, day or two off. I mean, every day you cursed having to get up out of bed, but you never wanted it to end. You just knew how amazing it was, and you were a little part of history if you loved this sort of thing.
Yeah, no, that sounds super awesome.
Amazing.
I mean, working every day on set, and it's interesting that you said that you are one of the first people as a stand-in or a photo double. You're one of the first people to get on set,
Sure.
and you have like it sounds like a fairly intimate working relationship with the actor you're doubling for and the director. And I was wondering what your relationship generally is with the director, and maybe specifically on John Wick 3, how that sort of went.
Sure. It's always a tentative one. This is a very unique environment working on the John Wick films. The director on John Wick 3 was a gentleman by the name of Chad Stileski. I'm sure you guys already know that. He is famous for not only working with Keanu Reeves back in the Matrix movies as his double, but in addition to being a director, the last 10, 20 years or so, he and a partner have developed a fight choreography business based out of LA called 8711. If you were to look up their website, they are responsible for every single high-end action movie. If it was The Rock, or if it was Marvel, or if it was John Wick, they were in charge of all of the fighting and all of the complicated. I mean, they are literally the best of the best. And so most of the people that are on set, even if it has nothing to do with stunt, is a stunt. It's a stunt performer's dream. Stunt guys all over. There's always a couple guys throwing each other around in the shadows and the wings, practicing some sort of a sequence that they're going to shoot in a couple days. So it's all tons of testosterone. If you don't get along with stunt guys, if you don't know how to behave or keep your nose out of everybody's business, that sort of thing, you're not going to get too far. You're going to drive everybody crazy, and you're not going to be invited back. Yeah. And Chad comes from that. So it's stunt. It's a stunt unit times 10. So it's tentative at best in the beginning. You keep your mouth shut. You make sure that before they look for you, you're there. Be super, super duper professional. They're very hesitant to let you do anything because they've got stunt guys. They don't want you touching anything. They don't know who you are. You're just some charming, nice guy that showed up one day. They don't know your military background. They don't know that you know how to do a lot of this stuff and could be extra helpful. You just hopefully you work long enough where you find yourself in a situation where you can do really well and impress them, and they let you do more. They invite you to hang around more, and then hopefully you're accepted. I definitely felt that. I mean, they couldn't be more professional, super cutting edge. My God, we could spend another whole day just talking on all the set pieces in John Wick 3. The first third of the movie's the first third of the movie all in rain. Watching them orchestrating and painting with that brush, unique to a lot of projects I've worked on have never been so wet before in my life. The horses, the motorcycles, the ninjas. I mean, these are huge set pieces, big portions of the movie. I mean, days and days of rehearsals and watching them coordinate all this. But just, standing literally feet away from Chad, it was amazing. People pay for that sort of education. I was lucky enough to be paid to participate in that education. Keep your mouth shut. Eventually you can help them out, be charming, develop, somewhat of a casual relationship. It was, they were the best.
So, as someone who is standing in for Keanu Reeves, I'm sure you had something of a professional relationship with him, and we've asked the other people who've worked with him to confirm if he's really as nice as the internet makes him out to be.
I can absolutely agree that he is one of the nicest, most professional people I've ever worked with.
That's
Absolutely.
what people say.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, he's become like the internet's dad of just being such a warm, welcoming presence while portraying such a mean, murderous man.
Yeah, no, it's amazing that he plays such a vicious guy, because he's such a soft-spoken guy. It projects well though on screen.
One of the questions I wonder now, given your military background, is there maybe on this movie specifically or another movie? I mean, you spoke briefly on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, sure, where you were able to take your background into that, and that was able to sort of creatively feed into the movie in some sort of substantial way.
I don't know. I mean, I guess in the context of what we're talking about as a stand and a double, you'd be surprised at how, despite most American men running around as kids with guns playing cops and robbers, how very few people look convincing holding one. When you work at this level, I take these things very seriously, and these creative geniuses in all their different areas take it extraordinarily seriously. So if you're blessed enough to be invited to walk through that door frame with a gun in your hand, pointed up, and you're going to project the silhouette of John Wick for these guys to kind of paint their masterpiece, you better know how to hold a gun. So all of the basic military training that I had, my military bearing, if you will, I've seen that's actually carried me through. Because again, most of the guys that lose their gig is, they've somehow found themselves in this role, and then they're given a gun, or they're given something, you jump in that car and take off. Little things like that are, not everybody, especially being in New York City, not everybody can even drive a car. Most people don't even have a driver's license. There's very few people that have served in the military. Every once in a while you'll see a retired police officer or something like that. But that really did. I mean, again, it's, I'm in some small way, in the roughest sketch possible, I'm helping to embody the character, and they're making creative decisions based on what I look like when I come through that doorway, or come over that wall, or get in the car and take off, or and while that sounds like it might be a little bit taking it too far, that's exactly how far everyone's taking it when they're on set, and I think the results speak for themselves. I mean, the movies are amazing.
So it says we looked at IMDb, and it says that you worked on movies with Steven Spielberg and Christopher Nolan, and those are some of our favorite directors. So we were just wondering what it was like, and if you got to interact with them at all, because I'm sure at least we'd be starstruck.
Sure. Oh, of course. Well, the first film that I ever worked on, after Royal Pains, 2 weeks after working on that episode, I got a phone call from the same stunt guy that was on that episode to work on The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh my God!
So,
That's one of my favorite movies.
Right. Oh, I was doomed. My career aspirations pivoted once I got that phone call. So I was one of the Gotham City police officers that were locked underground and participated in the fight on Wall Street. So we were able to go out to, I forget where it was, Robert Moses Airfield out. I think that's what it's called, on the way to Far Rockaway, New York. Anyway, went out there for fight training with stunt guys for a couple days. They divided us into Bane's Mercenaries and the GCPD, and we went through a very, simple, coordinated, and well, if you've seen the film, that's exactly what it was like. 3 days in Southern Manhattan. Just amazing. So anyway, Christopher Nolan, very, very hands-on in the middle of the crowd. I mean, chatted with him a couple of times, as he chatted with hundreds of different guys at different moments, moving these IMAX cameras around during these huge fight scenes. he had the trench coat and the scarf, and it was, pardon my French, it was fucking amazing.
Yeah,
The
rightfully
tea.
so.
And you never want to do anything else ever again once you have that gig. Steven Spielberg, my God, one of the best moments of my life. I've been honored to work on 3 of his last New York projects. The first one was Bridge of Spies.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Excellent. Jeremy Marks, as I previously noted, he worked on all 3 of these Steven Spielberg movies, so it just reinforces how important relationships are. If you're asked to go to ninja school, make sure you do a good job. You might just punch your ticket to go work for Steven Spielberg. So I did a bunch of things. I drove vintage cars on set as a precision driver for them. I was a stand-in for a few of the not so important characters. If you watch the end of the movie, I was very featured with Tom Hanks at the end when he's on the subway car going home. They have this text overlay in the last scene. It's a long lingering shot that explains what happened to Gary Powers after at the end of the movie. And as a bookend to the text, Tom Hanks is on the right and I am on the left. So it's a nice 2-minute lingering shot of Tom Hanks and I riding somewhere on a subway train before it fades to black and says directed by Steven Spielberg. So that was fun. The second movie I worked on was The Post. Same sort of thing, stood in, played a number of different roles, worked a number of days on that. And then finally, I was lucky enough to be a precision driver on West Side Story. It just wrapped up.
Gosh, that's the new one.
That's
Oh
the
my
new
god.
It's not even out yet.
Not even out yet. Just before all this nonsense with the pandemic started.
Did it finish filming?
It did finish filming. We finished all the filming, and that was extraordinary. As a precision driver, I got to drive a number of different antique vintage cars in the middle of the scenes. Worked 20 days on it, for God's sake. Sweating my ass off in Manhattan, with Spielberg running around making this amazing remake of an amazing original movie. And yeah, I was lucky enough with Spielberg to each project I worked on, I was able to work on more days in more interesting roles. Worked a few on the first project, a couple more on the second, and this last one I worked so many, I couldn't believe it.
Wow,
That's
you're
crazy.
You're meeting all the famously nice celebrities, then you've breathed the same air as Tom Hanks.
I have, and he's another one. As I've told a lot of people, so a lot of these celebrities, especially actors, many of them, there are some that are transformative. Meryl Streep's one, Daniel Day-Lewis is another, but generally the personalities that come through in the roles are kind of how the people are. Tom Hanks is a very, very sweet, nice guy. Steven Spielberg, sweet, nice guy. Some of the other actors and actresses that may be more intense, maybe perceived to be a little bit more difficult, they probably are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it just was, again, these are people that I grew up idolizing, just like so many. I would have stood in line for hours at a car show to meet them, let alone work with them.
And now you're getting paid.
And to get paid again,
which makes it much better.
Don't tell them I would do it for free. I would pay to do it, but please don't edit that out. Don't tell them that.
Of course.
You'll have to post.
You'll have to forgive me for this, but Aaron Sorkin is my absolute favorite screenwriter.
Yeah.
I assume the movie you worked on him with was on Molly's Game?
No, actually. I just got done wrapped up
his new movie, the Chicago movie.
Trial of Chicago 7. A wonderfully intimate dozen or so days on that set, locked away in the courtroom. I was one of the court bailiffs. So I got to be literally in the back of the room, listening and watching and participating. Stood in for a number of the leads. Oh God, how can I not remember his name? Anyway, there were half a dozen 6-foot-tall lead actors sitting around a dais in a courtroom that they would have me shuffle around for. So again, it was just to get to be in the graces of not only Aaron Sorkin but Frank Langella was the judge, and just hearing him chit chat about the weather or the football game with such gravitas was a treat. Let alone the star power. I mean, if you look on some of the press releases, you'll see the cast. It was insane.
You've worked in many different departments, like you spoke about. You've been a stunt person, you've been a photo double, you've been stand-in, you've been an actor. You have your own video consultation site that I saw.
Yes.
And I was wondering whether there was a specific department that you gravitate towards most, like whether it's acting or any of the other things I mentioned, or if it's just all sort of different for you and equally fulfilling.
Your question was which department do I gravitate for? Whichever department will pay me and book me for the day. That said, I think there's this traditional vision of what it is to work in the arts, especially film and television. Ideally, like yourselves, you go off to Rutgers, you get your film degree. Maybe you go out to LA, you do some developmental classes at USC. You get in with a good group of guys and you do the festival circuit. That's a traditional way. Maybe you go to Yale Drama. You do it that way. Well, most of us don't. Most of us find ourselves in it, and you find your own way. There's a lot of creatives that just are generally creative. Most of the people I work at that are doing props or sound or lighting, they're also writing an album, writing a book, writing a screenplay. It's an amazing group of people that are doing all a number of things. A little bit late in life, especially when I found myself working in an art gallery in my 30s, that's really when I had a creative awakening and really started experimenting and doing all kinds of stuff. So I wasn't trying to be an actor. I wasn't trying to be a stunt guy. I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just my goal was to get on set and to spend as much time bothering as many people, asking them, what do you do? And if I see him for the second or third time, I'll ask him even more. And just, I got my creative education that maybe I didn't get to go to USC Film School. I kind of have done that for myself over, albeit a much longer period. But, I'd say I got a pretty interesting film and television education over the last 10 years.
Only worked with Steven Spielberg and Christopher Nolan.
So you're doing fine.
Sure. But again, it's you guys are a few years younger than me. I'm part of the gig economy. I'm hustling around. If a low budget commercial wants to hire me as an art director, I'll do that. But I can't. I'm not available on Thursday because I'm standing in for Keanu Reeves or whatever it is.
Right.
They'll hire me to do be a sound assistant on a commercial, but if they'll hire me to be an FBI agent on whatever the new Christopher Nolan movie or something like that. So it's just, I would love to have done the John Wick weapons focused action movies 24/7. Just doesn't work that way.
This is kind of a tangential question, but do you have to learn dialogue of the actor you're standing in for? Like, do they have you reading lines?
It depends. I'd say that, most of the time, unfortunately, they're in an effort just to breeze through and get things done. Stand in. You need to be aware of the dialogue because you need to know what's happening in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know what he's doing, but you didn't necessarily need to know it. There's an old-fashioned way of being a stand-in, and I've occasionally been exposed to this. Now, in the early days, I wasn't prepared, and I sure as hell got prepared. The old-fashioned way of being a stand-in was whoever you were the stand-in was, you would help them rehearse. Nowadays, everybody's got so many resources, and they've got their own trailer, they've got their helicopter, they've got 4 or 5 people that are helping them with their dialogue and their lines. So they're not usually using the stand-in in that way. But there have been times where, on John Wick 3, perfect example, it wasn't Keanu, it was the amazing Ian McShane who played Winston, who before shooting a scene on the roof of the Continental grabbed me and said, "Hey kid, would you mind running some lines with me?" So I read the lines of John Wick, and he read the lines of his character Winston, and Jesus Christ, amazing! Can't believe it. I wish that happened more than it did. Not so much. I was a stand-in for Ethan Hawke on a low-budget indie called 10,000 Saints, and he was extraordinarily busy. The other actors needed a lot of rehearsal time, so it only took 2 or 3 days into that gig where I knew, my God, I got to memorize this dialogue because all the other leads are going to expect me to be Ethan Hawke until he shows up at the last minute and does his amazing magic trick of just knowing all the lines of everybody, and then as soon as he's done, So at times there's a reason for you to know it. Most of the time, I'd say it's not a requirement. Some guys probably do it for years and never have to know a line of dialogue. They just generally know what the character's supposed to do and go through the motions. But the few times that you're asked to do it, if you're prepared, it's a lot of fun.
We're also living in somewhat dystopian times, and we were wondering how the coronavirus has been treating you since this whole thing has
and
gone
how
down.
it's affected your ability to work.
Sure. Interesting question. It certainly put my entire professional life on pause, as it does for film and television. I still pay my SAG dues, as they're requiring us to pay them. All as far as New York goes, all of production's been shut down since March, and with no foreseeable start in the future. Frank, I think anybody would tell you they don't know. I certainly don't know. I have very little confidence that I'll be returning to set anytime soon. Personally, instead of filing for unemployment, I immediately went out and got a job as a photographer.
Nice.
Somewhat related in the creative, but just almost as a survival instinct, because I just knew, as even during the best of times, it was such a fragile existence that, man, when times are going to get questionable, I just, you're looking at personal survival. So anyway, right now, everything's still shut down. Do I foresee eventually will it get back to normal? Whatever the new normal is, you bet they're going to be cranking out Netflix blockbusters by the dozens before you know it. Right now, I don't know how it affects us. For instance, I know that there's been a few projects around the world that have started again, one of which is Matrix 4. So I got some sense of how they're handling those things. Things like stand-ins and doubles, they're questioning the use of those. They're trying to minimize the people on set. They're probably going to be asking more of the lead actors and actresses instead of using the stand-ins. If they can cut in, you know what I mean? It's just the sort of thing that they're going to break the rules and not do that. Whenever they have a FBI task force or some sort of a SWAT unit or something that they normally would cast a half a dozen of us to stand behind Colin Farrell to go kick the door in, I can't see that they're going to do that. At least not in the next year or two. They're either going to, what I've heard is combination of them just rewriting things so that they don't use so many people. Instead of him being with the unit, maybe he takes down the door by himself. It's just, again, it limits all those little magic moments that you're able to find yourself, and it puts you in a situation where, man, things have to work out so well for me. And so I have to be so lucky and fortunate for me to be able to carve a living out for myself. You just go back into that. Hopefully, many of my friends, some are struggling more than others. All of us were kind of gigging it in a number of different creative areas. So hopefully you can still somewhat retain a few of them, so that, God forbid, when they do call a year from now and say, hey, John Wick 4, can you come in for a couple days? You want to be available. You want to be around. You want to be still in the game. It's scary to think that might not be the case. I think I'm okay right now. A lot of us aren't. It's a tough time. It's a tough time for a lot of people, and certainly for this business. But movies will survive.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about the boom post quarantine of content making up for lost time.
I think so. I mean, my God, there's been so much. If you just based it on Netflix alone, they were cranking out so much content prior to this that there won't really be a perceived loss of content. Like, oh my God, there's no new shows. There's so much in the can that when they do, I mean, the technology, the way that the studios are being built now, the streamlining of everything. I mean, when trust me, when they give a go so the Batman can start shooting in London again, it's insane how quickly they can get everything up and run. Hopefully everyone hasn't had to transition to other careers and other industries to try to survive this. That's what, all of us, if you're a hugely successful department head in any major television studio, you'll probably be okay. You'll probably you'll be waiting for their call when it's time for work. The rest of us, we're all gigging in other places, trying to hold on, So may we all be able to, for all of us that kill ourselves to participate in the art form that we love, hopefully we can hang in there and be on set another day.
Very well put. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much to Vince Hickman, our guest. He was a stand-in on our film of choice this week, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. We thank him for coming and talking with us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, Parth, bring us back from the interview. Talk about how great it was.
Man, that was such a great interview with Vince Hickman.
I think so
I'm
too.
sorry, I didn't know how to bring us back in other than that. But yeah, he was a great guy. He was just a wealth of interesting stories. Honestly, we talked for maybe like 10-15 minutes after the podcast ended,
And we could have talked for the next 72 hours if time permitted, but
Exactly.
we had other plans, and he probably had to like sleep or tend to his family, maybe not. But another feature of this podcast that we've been trying out has been reading the 1-star reviews off of Amazon.com for movies that we like, and it's a fun juxtaposition to hear people's complaints. So, Parth, do you mind if I just have at it?
Please.
Yeah, these people felt rather strongly. I'll read them, and then we'll discuss, and then we'll probably move on. Description: terrible! Exclamation point. The 5-star ratings are fake. Nothing makes sense about this movie. No plot. Opens with him bloody and running, and that's pretty much the movie. Really like the first 2 movies, but this one is shameful. I feel robbed. Description: no thanks. I guess I grew out of the action genre. Completely cheesy. Fight scene, weird wooden conversation, fight scene. Maybe I'm just biased due to my watching of shows such as Ozark and The Good Doctor recently. Description: skip it. Content: long, repetitive, boring, plus terrible acting from Keanu Reeves. The story's nonsensical, dumb, etc. John Wick is invincible, so it seems. For example, John Wick gets shot 4 times in the chest and survives a fall off a high-rise building, landing on the concrete. This is a type of nonsense you're going to see. Next one. Not enough time. Oh, well, I'll read it in that. I ordered this thinking I had a week to watch it, and I was going to while doing paperwork this weekend, and when I went to watch it, it had expired. You only have 24 hours to watch it now. Seems like a ripoff to me. Maybe because I don't have time to sit down and watch a whole movie at once, but probably just won't rent anymore if that's all the time I get. I'll just go to Redbox from now on. Didn't get to see anything but the first 5 minutes. LOL. That's a wasted $6. I like how this person didn't even hate the movie. They were just upset
it's just the system
that they didn't get to watch it. But it makes no sense that they would give it a 1-star review for that reason.
It's their own fault. It's their own fault.
But I do agree that, like, renting a movie and then only having 24 hours to watch it is absurd.
I think iTunes gives you 48 hours now.
As does Verizon, which was my predicament, because I started it one night and then the next day I had other plans, but I was like, well, I guess I have to cancel them because I'm certainly not going to pay another $6 to rent it again. So I had to make it work in my 48-hour span. Moving on. Cool if you're 13 years old. I've seen the other John Wicks, so I pretty much knew what to expect. But this one was an over-the-top bloodbath that no doubt the target audience was 13 to 19 male demographic. Like watching a graphic live-action video game, and you could absolutely predict every plot line. If you're drunk or high, maybe, but sober, ... Ominous. Last one. Good movie, but poor viewing experience. I rented the 4K quality. Did not get full 4K quality. The movie kept sputtering and rendering at low quality. Pixelated and grainy, despite having fast internet. Truly disappointed by this. Should have gone with Redbox. I have really taken a liking to the reviews that have nothing to do with the movie, and it's just about the conditions surrounding their viewing experience. Another consensus was people who thought that this one was like upsettingly violent, which kind of made no sense to me because I was
well, it is out of place in the John Wick franchise to be violent, so.
But it's no more violent than the past two. And if you've come this far,
I don't think you should be offended by anything you see in this movie if you are fine with the other two movies.
It's like watching like Jurassic Park 3 and being like, "Ugh, I hate the amount of dinosaurs in this one." It's like it's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
And there also I like don't really understand the people who are like, "Oh, I loved 1 and 2 and now this," because I think this one is I don't want to I mean, we'll get it.
let's hold off on that. Let me give the budget and box office of this movie,
Please.
if you would let me. The budget of this movie is about twice that of the sequel's budget. It's got a budget of $75 million, and it made $326.7 million worldwide.
I read the fun fact online that $45 million were spent on advertising, which is a lot of money.
Yep.
Parth, do you have $45 million?
Not on me, no.
Do you think you'll ever acquire like that amount of wealth in your lifetime?
Once I've crashed enough economies, sure.
So you're gaining money by crashing these economies? I thought you were just like watching the world burn.
Trent, you want to get into the production history?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So the production history. I more so just have some fun facts this week that I exerted. Okay. It has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was considered the Rotten Tomatoes voted as the second best action movie of 2019, behind a movie called Shadow that I had never heard of.
I've never heard of that.
According to Keanu, the film's title, Parabellum, was taken from the famous 4th century Roman military quote, pardon my pronunciation, because I guess it's in Roman or whatever language.
It's in Latin.
There you go.
Did you not know that Romans spoke Latin?
Si vis pacem parabellum, which means if you want peace, prepare for war. No need to question my lack of knowledge about the Latin language. It's dead. People, move on. Learn.
I took it for like 5 years.
Wow, I bet you did so good on the SAT. You got to learn about root words. In an interview with Jimmy Fallon, Halle Berry said, "I broke 3 ribs in rehearsal." The action scene featuring... Also, this is going to sound insane, but when I watched the movie, I was like, is that Halle Berry? And then I just like moved on. And then today when I was reading about it and it said Halle Berry was in this movie, I was like, that can't be right. But she was. She was just totally a part of it. She had a role. She acted, and she's
the whole
in
9 yards.
Yeah, she's in the final
actually
cut.
appeared in it.
The action scene featuring NBA basketball player Boban Marjanovic was inspired by the Bruce Lee film Game of Death, where Lee fights NBA basketball player Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Nice.
I liked that scene a lot, and that was a big man, but I didn't know that he was a basketball star. He plays for the Mavericks, just an FYI. I don't. What is his last name? Is he like Russian?
I think so, given his accent.
So Keanu was nominated. This came out in 2019. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Keanu was nominated for the at the Razzies. Was given the Razzie Redemption nomination, but he lost to Eddie Murphy, who won for Dolomite Is My Name. So the Razzie Redemption Award is basically for people that have been nominated for Worst Actor or Actress in the past, but have since come out with a good movie. So I did some more research, and Keanu was nominated for Worst Actor 6 times for... Do you want me to name the movies?
Please.
Johnny Mnemonic, A Walk in the Clouds, Chain Reaction, Hardball, and Sweet November. And but he's never won, which is, I guess, a good thing. But the people who have won Worst Actor several times are Sylvester Stallone, who's won 4 times, 3 times Adam Sandler and Kevin Costner, and 2 times Pauly Shore and John Travolta. But yeah, we're happy for Keanu that he is respected in the eyes of the Golden Raspberry Awards.
Seems like a nice guy.
Parth, take us away.
Well, given that I am the John Wick connoisseur of us two, I guess I'll start with my initial thoughts.
Yeah, you're self-pronounced. I mean, you don't have a plaque that says that or anything.
Oh.
Do you?
Well, why don't you come to my room? Find that out. Well, there's a pandemic going on. Please don't come to my room.
Okay, I'll stay away from your room. Besides, for when I come over tonight and look at you through the slits in your window and just release a lot of pent-up aggression. Just looking at you from a safe distance would really relax me. It's therapeutic, oddly. Some people do yoga. Some people watch Parth sleep. But tell us about your initial thoughts.
I saw this movie in theaters, and I was a very, very big fan of it. Since theaters, I've seen it a few times, and I really like it. I think it's my favorite movie in the series for action, and it's probably the worst movie in the series for its coherence.
Really?
Not coherence. More, I think it drags in the middle. The most out of all three, but I enjoy it probably the most.
All right. This was my first time, and like I mentioned, I watched it in halves over 2 nights. Thanks, Verizon. But I don't know if it just caught me in the right mood, but I sure as hell liked it a lot more than the second one. And
Really?
I thought the action was great. I thought in the second one, I complained a lot how the story had, like, it kind of just felt purposeless. But even though the plot of this film was more or less just an extension of the last one, I was totally on board. I was like, it's straightforward. I mean that maybe that's unfair to call it straightforward, but everyone's trying to.
I would say it's very straightforward. It is not a complicated movie.
It's just like
which is fine.
It's from point A to point B to point C, and there are a lot of steps like to arrive at the eventual destination. But it's very linear.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, the action sequences were great, and the cast was even better. And
well, let's start. What do you think of the direction? Like, I assume you think it improved.
Well, it's the same director and the same writer as the past two.
Well, there's three more writers on this movie.
Really?
Yeah, no. Derek Cole said I think the story's by him, and he's one of the writers for the screenplay. But they got 2 or 3 other people for the screenplay.
I think you are more equipped to discuss the direction, because I am just a lowly viewer, and you are the connoisseur.
I think this is not as big of a jump in direction from like the first one to the second one. I think this one's a pretty much like a solid like not in a bad way. Like the second movie was like pretty awesome in its direction, and I think this has it again. It's like an extension of the second one. I think the first act of this movie is the best John Wick material ever. Where he's just on the run. So I think, and then
I kind of like that's like John Wick at like its purest form. Even though it's like in the third movie, it's just like it's so high paced, and we're meeting all these different zany characters from the elaborate world that we've fallen in love with, and there's some badass action sequences in between, and we watch him kill people, and it's just fun. It's wholesome American entertainment.
I would agree. And I mean, I guess there's not really much I have to say on like the direction, the production design, or any like technical. It's all, or even like acting. It's all like, yeah, no, it's all still great. I think more so where I have anything to say is just on story terms.
Tell me.
And it's just, I mean, I guess spoilers, but it's just the Morocco portion of the movie is where...
Is Morocco where he goes to meet Halle Berry?
Yeah.
Got it.
I just feel like that portion of the movie is like...
I'm kind of blanking on what happened during that.
He goes to Morocco, meets Halle Berry, and then he meets Halle Berry, and then Halle Berry's like got her dogs, and then he and Halle Berry go to that one guy to get like...
were the dogs CGI'd?
No, those were real. They
like
trained those
time?
dogs. Yeah, no, for real.
Badass.
So what they did was they had trained the dogs for several months, and then they ended up only shooting for 4 days with the dogs because of how much pre-production they'd done.
Mm-hmm.
And they trained them so well. Because the thing with dogs that was interesting is you can't get like dogs that actually know how to like kill people to like fake kill people. So they have to train them how to fake kill people.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of an opposite process from what they do like for the people in John Wick, where like they get people that are like actually like military background and like actual stunt work and everything like that.
Yeah.
And then train people how to fake do it. It's kind of backwards.
How to look like they're killing people.
Yeah. So I think the action is all great. It's just I think it's the most egregious example in this movie where it's like things are happening, but there's not necessarily like a flow. But that's not something I picked up on until a later viewing.
Do dogs like wear bulletproof? Like do police dogs and military dogs wear bulletproof vests, or was that just like a plot convenience?
No, I think so.
Damn, because when that dog got shot, I was like, wow, this they're really playing the greatest hits of like, oh, I wrote in my notes another dead dog. But
he ended up not being dead.
Yeah, but I thought it was a badass like villain moment to be like, hey, give me your dog. And then she was like, huh, no. And then he was like, ha, no one can have it.
Yeah.
Another thing I wrote in my notes was, so throughout this series, I've noticed a pattern. And it's that in like pivotal, like narrative moments when like John Wick is like he has nowhere left to turn, he'll go to some character and be like, I'm in a dire situation and I need you to give me a weapon. And then they give him like a gun with like a limited amount of bullets, whether it be in the second one where he gets a gun with 7 bullets, or in this one I think he gets a gun with like 1 bullet or something like that. And then what kind of bothers me is that it seems like he's gonna have to like work under those constraints, like he's gonna have to kill all these guys with just like that limited
bullets,
with that constraint. But instead he just like kills someone immediately, uses all the available bullets, and then moves on to the next weapon. And I know that that's practical, but it just makes the buildup of making this weapon seem important. Like it just throws it out the window.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is also a movie that suffers from exhaustion by the end.
In what regard?
In that I think all of the action is incredibly well done. It's obvious they put a lot of hard work into it. I just think it's too much. Like it like by the third, what I found is that if you watch the third act on its own, it's great. If you watch the first act on its own, it's great. If you watch the second act on its own, it's also great.
They're just saying the cohesion.
Yeah, it's like I just think that it's like too much, and I think it should have been pared down. I think there's a pressure they feel to keep increasing the body count,
upping the ante.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the wrong way to go about things, because it doesn't really matter like how many people you kill. It matters how you kill them.
Yeah.
So like
it's quality over quantity, people.
Yeah, so like me seeing like him like waste a bunch of guys with like a Glock or something isn't going to be that cool, honestly, unless he like does it in a really interesting way. And I think this suffers from, like, him just wasting people, like, a lot of people, like, really quickly.
At this point, there are 2 top-tier action movies of him just, like, kind of killing people. So to do it a third time around, you really have to be inventive, or it's just going to feel like you're replaying, like,
Which they are. They are incredibly inventive. Like, they're really, like, this is the most the action is the most varied in this movie.
I agree.
And which is part of the reasons why I probably enjoy it the most. I just think that there's just way too, like, I think that like shootout at the end to hold the Continental goes on for so long, and it's all good. That's the problem. It's all well made.
I'm not sure what this means for the movie, but it's like I remember sitting down and viewing the film and actively enjoying every second. But now when you're talking about these different shootouts, I can't recollect what you're referring to. So
yeah, which is, I think, John Wick, its best parts are its specificity. You know, you remember the knife fight, you remember the pencil scene, you remember, you remember the specifics of things. You don't, like, really remember him, like, just killing all of these people right after another.
Like, the only thing that comes to mind from this movie is, like, the fight in the library, which did something entirely new, and the fight in the weapons store, which, like, introduced throwing knives, which was exciting. But the rest of the stuff where he's just using a pistol or an assault rifle, I'm like, been there, done that.
Yeah. But, I mean, I honestly don't have much to say, other than I feel like I'm shitting on this movie a lot. I really, really like this movie. I think it's the 10 tiers above every other action movie series that comes out, other than the Mission Impossible franchise, which is very different type of action. I think, like, in terms of bigger budget Hollywood action movies, this is the best of the best, or mid-budget action movies, I guess. I just hope, because it sets it up for a fourth one, which is in production.
I was going to make a comment about that. Oh, it's in production now?
Well, it was. Well, it was in pre-production, because Keanu is filming Matrix 4.
So do you think that John Wick 4 is going to be the last?
I don't know, because Chad Stahelski has said Keanu doesn't want to kill the guy because he really, really likes playing him.
Mm-hmm.
But
so he just wants to leave the window open for him to return?
Yeah, but Chad Stahelski doesn't want him to have a happy ending, because his whole thing is that, I mean, this happens a lot in the movie of consequence. Like, when you play in this world, you are in the world, and the world will screw you over.
Yeah, rules and consequences was the thesis statement of this film.
Yeah, so his whole thing is he can't have a happy ending because he keeps going deeper into hell. So the problem I have then is you can't keep having him have it end on a cliffhanger each movie, because
at some point there's going to be nowhere left to turn. Especially already at this point, he either has
I don't know beyond him, like, killing everybody in the high table. I don't know what you can do with this movie, with the series, that would remain interesting.
Because,
and I don't know how much. I mean, Keanu's, like, in his 50s,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much longer he can physically handle all of that.
Yeah, I didn't like how, like, during this movie, especially in, like, the latter half, I was like, I was like, this is just setting up the next movie. I was like, I know we're not going to reach a conclusion, but that detracted from the experience for me, because it meant that there isn't gonna be, like, a definitive ending. So it took away all the suspense, because I was just like, all right. And then I don't like it when they leave it in the middle of, like, a plot point, kind of like they did. And like, we know the next step is he's gonna go after the high table, but it basically just, like, stopped, like, mid scene, and then we're gonna have to wait 2 years to pick up where we left off.
Yeah, I just think, I I'm excited for the fourth one. I just don't think it should continue on. Because I
Beyond
think
that?
they need to know. Yeah, I think they need to know when to stop.
Well, Yeah, I think if you keep going needlessly, it only detracts from how much we like the current ones.
Yeah. And like it's going to get harder for him as he gets older, and it's going to get it can only go in either the things become worse action-wise, or things become like Fast and Furious and like ridiculous.
Mm.
Which like John Wick has always been pretty good about having like fantastical elements somewhat, but being fairly realistic. And I don't want them to. And I love the Fast and Furious franchise for what it's worth, but it's a different type of movie. Mission Impossible isn't going to have the same. It's not the same style as John Wick. It's not the same style as Fast and Furious. It's not. So I just want them to know when to stop. Is my basic thing.
That's an interesting point you make about basically being between a rock and a hard place, with Keanu not wanting him to die so he could reprise his role, and Chad Stahelski saying, I don't want a happy ending, when pretty much the only thing left is for him to just continue as an assassin, like, for the rest of his days.
Yeah, and he can, again, like, those are his only two there is no other option. He either dies or has a happy ending.
If it ends with him just like still like employed, like doing his usual thing, it's gonna feel really abrupt. It's gonna feel like there was no complete arc. You're just gonna be like, well, he ended up back where he started.
Yeah. Well, do you want to assign a rating to this movie?
So rating wise, I would say that the overall viewing experience was the most pleasurable, but it was the threequel. So it betrays my entire belief system to put it above the original rating wise, which I gave a 7.5. But I'm feeling daring. I'm gonna give this an 8. Just
Trent,
because I thought
we're twins.
I thought it brought a lot new to the table, and it paid tribute to all the things I liked from before. And yourself, apparently we're twins, not only physically but rating wise.
Yeah, I would give this an 8. Because I think it's the most enjoyable action wise out of the series, but it's the least. I think it has the least going on for it narratively. Which, like, I think that...
And that says a lot, since we both thought it was the best, and it was probably the weakest story.
Yeah, no, and I again, it's still a good movie. It makes me a little cautious of what they do with the fourth one. But that's a story for another time, I guess.
Well put. So... thank you so much to our guest, Vince Hickman, Keanu Reeves' stand-in and photo double. He was wonderful in the interview, and we appreciate his time. Parth, tell us about...
listening.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Tell us about what's our next episode. Do we know?
I don't know. We'll figure it out, guys. Bear with us.
As a team. That's all for now.
Well, see you guys.